No problem. So my name's Ranjeet Brar. I'm a surgeon in the National Health Service, but I'm also one of the members of the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist. So we're the Communist Party in Britain. So our party is about really saying that the majority of the world's problems are caused by inequality and poverty, and that we think it's possible to address those problems. We live in a world where, even Amnesty International point out that the 6 or 7 richest people on earth have as much wealth between them as half the world's population, the poorest half of the world. And it's not natural. For us, it's not natural that all the wealth flows uphill from the workers who create that wealth towards a tiny elite. And if you look over behind me, not far that way is the City of London. And the City of London is a collection of huge finance capitalists. And historically, they didn't come out of nowhere. They came out of empire, they came out of colonialism, they came out of the slave trade. And the amount of wealth they have is so vast that they still have a controlling say in the affairs of men through their economic power. And it's because of that that England, despite being the 6th richest country on earth, has now 13.5 million people who live on the edge of poverty.
What do you think of the UK government and all governments and how they treat the people and how
So our government make a big deal of saying they're democratic, that we have elections, that they therefore, implement the will of the people. That's what they say. They talk about their constituents, they represent their constituents, they represent the interests of the people. But what they really do is they represent the interests of the very wealthy through a very complex system of lobbying and a not so complex system of direct bribery and corruption. The very wealthy, particularly the big finance capitalists in the City of London, really own the major political parties. And whilst the Conservative Party, the Tory Party, is the major representative of the British capitalist class, actually they long ago seized control of the Labour Party as well. And they really own the democratic system, so that regardless of who we vote for, the will of the capitalists is actually the state policy. And they constantly talk about national interest, as if they're representing our own interest. But you only have to see, we're, for example, today on a huge demonstration, maybe a 1 million man demonstration for Palestine. And that's despite the lies, intimidation coming from our mainstream politicians. Don't forget, Suella Braverman has said that to say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, is a racist slogan. She said it's an anti-Semitic slogan. Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, has said he doesn't support a ceasefire. He says let the genocide continue. Why is it? Why is it that all of our mainstream politicians feel that the only correct policy for our nation is full-on genocide against the people of Gaza, against the people of Palestine, or against the people of Iraq? Let's not forget the last leader of the Labour Party we had, Tony Blair, launched his personal crusade together with George Bush and killed over 1 million people of Iraq. Why did they do it? They talked about democracy. They talk about caring about girls' education. They talk about the Marsh Arabs. They talk about the Kurdish rights. What they really care about is wealth and oil. It's all about oil. If you want to understand the policy of our government in 3 letters, you have to look no further than oil. And for the slow learners, Donald Trump said it, didn't he? When he said, why are you in Syria? Why are you destabilizing Syria? It's a stupid policy. He said, well, I don't think it's stupid. We've got the oil. We've got the oil. We've got the oil. He's drumming it home. That's why they hated Donald Trump. I'm no friend of Donald Trump. But, he was crass enough to say very directly that the real motivation and policy of our government is about oil. That's why there's a drive to war. That's why there's an axis of evil. If you look carefully at the axis of evil, there's nothing really that unites them apart from one thing. And I say they're evil, they're not evil. But, they're North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They're the Islamic Republic of Iran. They're Russia, they're China. They are actually, if you look at them, every single country, Cuba, every single country that's not currently occupied by the interests of Anglo-American imperialism. And that's why there's been a war on terror. It wasn't a war on terror, it was a war on the peoples of the world. And of course, whilst the people overseas, out of Britain, have a very hard time militarily, economically. The other side of that struggle is to crush down on the rights and to crush down on the standards of living of the working people of our own country. That's what imperialism is. Our party is dedicated to saying we don't have to live this way. It's possible to have a system where those who create the wealth, these millions of people around me, we're told this is some kind of Islamist radical demonstration. These are the working people of Britain who feel very strongly the justice of this cause. We say the working people who create the wealth should own and administer the wealth and should run the country. And that's what our party and our beliefs are at heart. It's a very good question. So to build unity amongst a very diverse group of people, we've all got different beliefs, different religions, different ethnicities, different national origins, but I don't think we fundamentally have different economic interests. We live on a certain amount, we sell our labor. Once we recognize the huge amount we have in common, we want decent schools for our children. I work in a hospital where I see the problems of healthcare being cut time and time again, of the privatization policies. So we want good services, we want good human conditions. This is what we want, this is what the vast majority of humanity want. We want an end to war, we want an end to injustice. And yet our government perpetuate and push forward the rights only of the capitalists. And once we realize what's at base of the injustice is exploitation of man by man and nation by nation, and stand together to stop that, I think we can achieve a great deal. But really it needs cooperation. It needs this mass of people to come together, not just for one issue, but to realize a base of the problem. It's not just Zionism, but Zionism is the creature of imperialism, is the people who make the wars. And they make the wars to preserve the profits, and they preserve the profits by preserving us as their wage slaves. Their wealth enables them to employ us, and therefore they appropriate the product of our labor. They have monopolized the wealth of all humanity. So we say our demands are very moderate. We only want the earth. We only want the earth for the inhabitants of the earth. And a system which constantly alienates the people from the wealth they create is unstable. It creates the problems we live through, and it can't live on forever. So we're dedicated to changing that. It'll take some time, but I think we can do it, okay?
Tell us a bit more about your organisation.
Yeah, so we have two papers. So the party has a paper called Proletarian. Proletarian is a word that not everyone understands, but it basically means worker. It means the people who live by selling their labor. That's the scientific term. So we're workers. We're all workers here, and actually that's what unites us whether we realize it or not. Okay, and so that's the name of our paper, that's the name of our organization. This issue was printed just before the Palestine war, so it centers on this particularly is Justin Trudeau meeting a member of the SS. And you remember he welcomed the SS member to his parliament. And we say, why is it that the Western leaders of imperialism celebrate fascism while they crush Russia? So I invite you to look at that. You can look at it, thecommunists.org online, www.thecommunists.org online. Have a look at that paper. The other paper that we have is Lalkar. That's actually a worker. Historically, that was the organ of the Indian Workers Association. My father was a guy called Harpal Brar. He was the founding chairman of our party, but he was a leader of the Indian community in Britain. And they had a paper. Lalkar is Lal means red, Kar means work, but together the work means struggle or militant challenge. And that was the name of that paper. It's Britain's oldest anti-imperialist paper. This is an old paper. This is a particular issue, the latest issue just come out. It's full of information about Palestine, but this has been a long anti-imperialist theoretical journal. It's all available online since 2000, though it's been going since the 70s. And if you look right back in its history, this organization, the Indian Workers Association, was actually founded by a group of comrades who are around a guy called Shahid Udham Singh. It was someone who was so upset by the British colonial rule in India that he came and he became a Ghaddarite revolutionary. He came to Britain, and during World War II he actually shot someone called Sir Michael O'Dwyer, who had been Deputy Governor General of the Punjab during British India's rule, and was responsible for the Jallianwala Bagh massacre that we had the centenary of in 2019. So this has a long history with the Indian community in this country, but now it's become an independent anti-imperialist journal. It's online. This issue is all about Palestine. It's got fantastic information by a lot of writers. So I invite your listeners, please, or watchers rather, please get hold of it, have a look online. There's a lot of information. I think Paul Robeson, a great leader of the Afro-American people, said the heights of knowledge have to be scaled by the freedom seeker. That's very much our creed. So we collate information, and you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But of course it depends exactly which truth you find, which information you find. And the workers have to learn to find trusted sources that are going to bring them together and advance their causes. So we invite all of you to get online, have a look at what we have to say. Please reach out to us, be in touch with us, and together we can build a better world. Never feel that imperialism is so powerful that it controls everything. Look around you. If 1 million people have turned up on the streets of London, and that's despite the threats that there was going to be violence, that the police have been mobilized with riot police, that our Prime Minister and Home Secretary are calling us violent, though we're asking for a ceasefire, then you know that their propaganda is becoming thin, that not everyone's believing what they're saying, and people are looking for answers. I think we have a lot of those answers. Together we can build a force for great change in this country, so please come together and join with us.